This is a Day AI presentation for April 14th, a date threaded through collapse, discovery, leadership, and irreversible turning points in human history. On April 14th, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. The nation, already fractured by civil war, entered another rupture point. He would die the following morning, but April 14th became the moment the American experiment shifted weight. Victory in war colliding with the instability of Reconstruction before it even began. On April 14th, 1861, Fort Sumter officially fell to Confederate forces after a bombardment that began days earlier. This moment is widely marked as the opening of the American Civil War. The symbolic line between unity and division hardened into armed reality, and the conflict that followed would redefine the nation's identity at enormous cost. On April 14th, 1912, the RMS Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic at night. What followed was not immediate catastrophe, but a slow unfolding of failure, design limits, cold water, human decisions under pressure. The ship would sink in the early hours of April 15th, but April 14th is the moment the unsinkable became vulnerable, a turning point between industrial confidence and mechanical humility. On April 14th, 1942, during World War II, the Japanese occupation of the Philippines continued its brutal consolidation phase following the fall of Bataan. The era defined by forced marches, starvation, and mass suffering had already begun, and April stands within the larger machinery of war where survival itself became an act of resistance. On April 14th, 1994, the Rwandan genocide period escalated in global awareness as international attention began to lag behind unfolding mass violence. This era marks one of the darkest modern examples of how rapidly societal structure can collapse into targeted destruction when governance fails. On April 14th, 1989, India saw major constitutional and political movements tied to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's legacy, whose influence continues to shape legal and social frameworks across the country. Born on April 14th, 1891, Ambedkar's birthdate itself is observed as a moment of reflection on law, equality, and structural reform within society. On April 14th, 2003, scientists completed the draft mapping of the Human Genome Project, one of the most significant biological milestones in modern science. It marked the first large-scale reading of human genetic structure, opening pathways in medicine, ancestry, and biotechnology that continue to evolve today. Across invention and progress, April 14th sits at the intersection of human systems reaching their limits and then being rewritten. From engineering failures at sea to breakthroughs in genetic mapping, it reflects both collapse and reconstruction in equal measure. Births and deaths across this date vary widely, but the deeper pattern is consistent. Individuals born on this day, like Dr. Ambedkar, later become structural forces in law and society. Individuals lost on this day, like Lincoln, become historical pressure points where entire nations recalibrate direction. April 14th does not behave like a single narrative. It behaves like a threshold. War begins. Ships fail. Leaders fall. Code is written into biology itself. And societies either fracture or reorganize under the weight of what they cannot avoid. This is a Day AI presentation. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. April 14th is a reminder that history rarely announces itself cleanly. It arrives as impact, delay, consequence, and realization, sometimes all at once, sometimes too late to reverse. We must reflect on the past to understand the present, to shape the future. If it can be done, we will do it here on Day AI. See you at a later date.